Ko taki timu te waka, ko mohaka te awa, ko haururu te maunga, ko ngati pāhau were te hapu, ko ngati kāngunu te iwi, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Which is just another way of saying, I'm just a simple little Māori fella. Came from a little place on the east coast of the North Island called Raupunga. Now, I was born in 1950, so I'm 71 now, but when I was growing back up there in the 1950s, I could have never imagined one day I'd use a thing called a computer, go on a thing called the internet, to a place called Google Earth to take you back to the house I was brought up in. But there it is. That's the house I was brought up in without electricity. So we didn't have TV, we didn't have electric lights, Mum cooked on a coal-fire range. So that was the start of my journey. Now, I have a whakatauki tonight I want to share with you, which suits the festival of the future. Ko ngā tāhua o tapuai e nānahe, hei to ira ora mō a popo. Which translated, I always say this, if you listen to Guy on Esperance on national radio, you don't need it translated. But if you're a fan of Mike Hoskins, I've got a translation for you. The footsteps we lay down in the past create the paving stones of where we stand today, which is what we were just talking about. And the important thing is that those footsteps always lie in front of us. We never lose sight of those footsteps. So I want to start off tonight with an ad I found on that thing called YouTube. It was made in 1953. I was 3 years old, and it was all about this amazing new thing called plastic. Oh, audio. It's very important we have audio. How are we going? I knew, I was really worried about that haka, because I could see this computer going boom, 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 boom. Have we got a problem there? Try again. Technology. Eh? Technology. Let's just go and see if they've knocked my stat out. Let's go and see if they... Oh, geez. Actually, you might have heard that guy Russell Coates. One day he tried to stop us from doing the America's Cup, so somebody sent me this thing. That's me on the horse. That's Russell Coates with a bucket over his head. But anyway, we'll just check, because it's going to be really difficult. No, that's good. That's good. What do you reckon?
I noticed you all wear...
There we go. I think that was it.
I noticed you all wear buttons with SPI on them. What does SPI mean?
Society of the Plastics Industry.
Turn it up.
Certainly plastics are recognized as the contemporary material of our age. And it's easy to look a few years ahead. Now, before we had plastics, design was limited by the characteristics of natural materials. But along came plastics and changed everything.
I'll say they did. Why, I can clean our whole place in a jiffy. Light as a feather and good looking too.
Your refrigerator is full of plastics too.
My refrigerator?
Both inside and out. It's full of plastics no matter what make you have.
I suppose it's because plastics do so many things better.
And so many more things. That's why plastics are used in place of natural materials.
You see, we have plastics all around us. Do I win?
In this game, everybody wins.
Isn't that amazing? So as we look out there, I was 3 years old. So in the space of one lifetime, a product that we thought was going to change the world did change the world, because in the time of one lifetime, that's a plastic island in the middle of the ocean that is the size of France, and you can walk on it. So that's the really important things about these footsteps lying in front of us, because those are unintended consequences as well. We thought plastics were going to change the world, and they have, but not the way we hoped. So as you think about all of the things you're going to do, keep your eye on those footsteps that we have laid down to know that they may have unintended consequences. Now they mentioned, so the other thing I want to give you real confidence about is you don't really have to be clever or anything to do all this cool stuff that I've got involved in. So as they said, here's my first job. I was a singer in a rock and roll band. How's that? Hey, we opened the Beach Boys concert here in Wellington. Yeah. Nobody could wait for us to get off. Bring on the Beach Boys. So anyway, we opened that. Then it was the Vietnam War, so I got called up in the army. That's me over there, see, right at the end here? That's me in the army. Well, when I got out of the army, I had no idea what I was going to do, so I went down to Dunedin and got a job in a brewery. That was really cool. Then I thought I'd better get a degree. So I went and I looked at university, thought medicine, law was shorter, so I did a law degree. So there I am. So now I've got this law degree, and I'm about to go and get a law job, and somebody says, hey, they've got a job on Play School. I thought, law, Play School, no-brainer, so I just went and worked on TV. So here I am now working on TV. Now, I want to share with you, see, these footsteps that sit in front of us, it's now 1989. And I'm there at TV, and I get introduced to these guys. You'll notice the moment, they're 4 white guys. But anyway, I get introduced to these guys from Otago University. And in 1989, that group of people went to America and won the World Computer Programming Championships. They beat all of it. They beat Harvard, Stanford, Caltech, all of the big Americans. They were the first non-American team ever to win the World Computer Champs. So I thought, gee, that sounds like a good future. I don't know anything about computers. So I went down, said, why don't we start a computer graphics company? So remember, this is 1989 in Dunedin. And so we'd also decided we'd start this computer graphics company in Dunedin in 1989, and we'd take on the world from there. And here's what we had to work with. So that was the computer. How's that? In today's money, that's $12,000, 5 megabytes, 10 megabytes. It was a real boomer. But the other thing that happened in 1989, and this is why those footsteps are so important. I didn't know it, but at the time we decided that we were going to take on the world without leaving Dunedin, a guy in England called, I've forgotten his name now, invented the World Wide Web at the same time. And it's that World Wide Web that we didn't know existed that's taken us to the world. Now, we didn't make a business plan, so don't you worry about business plans if you're doing all that stuff, it's really cool. Don't worry about business plans, but we did have one of those things called a corporate mission statement. We had a competition at work. The receptionist came up with it. We came up with this, bugger the boxing, just pour the concrete anyway. So that seemed like a really good idea, so we just set up, we bought ourselves a $5,000 10 megabyte computer, and we just started doing stuff. And here's the stuff we did. So in 1992, we changed the way the world viewed yacht racing with the America's Cup. I took up golf and I said to everybody, get me to all the best golf tournaments in the world for free, so they did. We're one of only 2 companies in the world that's allowed to do that, DRS. We built the simulator for one of the world's leading Formula 1 race cars. We built the air traffic control simulator that trains air traffic controllers all over the world. For Whale Watch Kaikoura, we drained the Pacific Ocean, and I always loved this bit. Because we were from Dunedin and because we could, well, hell, we went and blew up Auckland. So here's the thing. Those are the footsteps we laid down, and we have never lost sight of them. They are always in front of us, and it always makes the next steps into the future so much easier. But one of the things, you laugh at bugger the boxing, pour the concrete anyway. But there are 2 really amazing lessons that I've learned now as I look at all of those footsteps. Bugger the boxing, the 2 lessons that come out of that, the first is if your team tells you that they can pour concrete without boxing, believe them. Trust them. Trust everyone around you. Just take that message today, and it is the most important. You build a great team, trust them. The second lesson is that when you have this idea, the technology might not exist. So when we decided in 1989, bugger it, we'll just pour the boxing, bugger the concrete, we didn't know what was going to happen next. But this year, here is a house in Germany that people moved into that was built with a laser printer, with a 3D printer. That's an office block in Dubai being built with a 3D printer. So somewhere someone is designing the technology that will allow you to meet those goals or those dreams that you have. So do not bury the dreams. Hold them and keep going with a passion. Now, as an example, I'm going to introduce you to someone else. So, has anyone here heard of a company called Architecture van Brandenburg? No, they're really cool. So here they are. So that's them, that's Ash, that's Damien, and that's Griff. There are only 6 of them in this company. They operate in Dunedin out of an office behind a pizza restaurant, and this is what they do. They use 3D printers to design buildings. So here they are designing this building, and I remember one day I went over, Damien invited me over, have a look at what he was doing. I thought, gee, Damien, that's fantastic, but who's ever going to build it? There it is, being built in China now. It is 4 times the size of Te Papa. It'll house 30,000 people, and it is built from recycled materials. Designed in a building, an office behind a Pizza Hut in Dunedin, and you've never heard of them. But here's the really cool thing. Damien van Brandenburg is 38 years old, and this is the first building he has ever built. How amazing is that? Look at it. Look what's possible. But here's the other cool thing. His wife, Ash, is the designer, and Damien has designed the entire building, and Ash is designing on 3D printers everything that goes inside it. The cups, the saucers, the chairs, the light bulbs, the door handles, all from an office in Dunedin behind a pizza restaurant, and you've never heard of them. So that's the world you're going into. That's the world of possibilities. Now, people often ask me, they see all this cool stuff that we're doing, they go, God, how come you, a little Māori fella from up on the east coast of the north, and here's something I just want to share with you now. So as I said, I'm 71 now, so back in that time that I was growing up in Raupunga, taught by my mother and father, Mum was a teacher, they were both teachers. My mother sent me to a Catholic Pākehā boarding school. I didn't learn the reo. Mum had the reo, the aunties had the reo, but Mum had this thing as she looked at the world back in the 1950s, and it was, if my son is going to succeed, the last thing he needs is the reo. He needs to go to a Pākehā school. And I thank my mother for that. It must have been a huge, huge decision to make. But I so regret not having the reo. And I am learning it. And it is a really powerful, powerful tool. And, I am so glad as we listen today. Fly up on the aeroplane, there's the reo. Listen to national radio, there's the reo. So, embrace it, encompass it, because it's who we are. But anyway, people say, so you're this little Māori fella, don't know anything about technology, come from a place without electricity. How did you get to do all this? My answer always used to be, well, it's simple, I just surrounded myself with really clever white people. And it's funny, I believed that for so long, for 30 years. But recently, as was mentioned this morning, I have been discovering the incredible story of Pacific voyaging. The voyagers who travelled from Southeast Asia to New Zealand 3,500 years ago. At the same time the Egyptians were building the pyramids, our ancestors took on the Pacific, the mighty Tomana Nui a Kiwa. It is the greatest story of human migration in history, and it has been untold. So we have, as someone mentioned, and I'd love to share it with you, but we don't have time, but we have set a site. Take a look for it, mātauranga.co.nz. It is a free gift to every school in the country, and it tells that story, and the story that it shares with all of our tamariki, not just Pacifica and Māori, with all of them, is that innovation is in our DNA. And again, it's the footsteps that lay down in front of us that show us that. There's a better way to say this about surrounding yourself with clever Pākehā, and of course, it comes from one of the great Māori elders, Sir Papatuanuku. This is what Papatuanuku said to an 8-year-old girl, Māori girl. Grow up, young child, and throughout your life, use the tools that Pākehā has to offer as your lodestone to creative inspiration. Isn't that much better than surround yourself with clever white people? It's so musical, it's so beautiful. And what is so beautiful about it is that when we do that, so here I am, there we were, leave you with a couple of ideas here. So in 1989, this idea started in a place at the bottom of the world that, hey, let's just go and rule the world in the world of sport. And we combined 2 cultures. We combined the Māori and the tools of the Pākehā to create creative lodestar. And this is what happens. So this is what we do around the world after having an idea in 1989. And the only business plan we had was, hey, we all like sport, so what could we do to get to all the best sports events in the world for free? And here's what we do around the world. We need that music up, this is good. It's the whole of the moon. Never look for the crescent, look for the whole of the moon. I might start singing soon. So as I said, we're one of only 2 countries in the world that's allowed to do the DRS for cricket. And so these are all the sort of things that we do now. just for a ball. One of our guys loves Formula One racing, so for 20 years we've been doing Formula One all over the world, and it's a terrible job to do. It means he has to go to all these boring places to do it. But he did it because he's passionate about it. And as I said, I took up golf and said, get me to all the best golf tournaments in the world for free. We now do every golf tournament in the world. All of the majors, all of the golf in Europe. So any golf you watch now is being done by our team in Dunedin, all this stuff here. There's my mate Tiger. And that's the really cool thing. You used to get to walk on the fairways beside him. And then last year we got a post call from Major League Baseball, so now we do 3,000 games of baseball a year from Dunedin. Now I started off our history in 1992 about starting with the America's Cup. So we started with the America's Cup with a computer that cost us $500,000. Today, this is what those graphics look like. Everything you see on there is being done by our team on a machine that can operate on an iPhone. All that data, all of that is coming to the team to put on there. So that's why it's really important to hold those footsteps always in front of you. Because when we made those first graphics with a $500,000 computer...
21 years after their first successful defence on home waters, Emirates Team New Zealand do it again in a new class of boat that proves Kiwis can fly.
So that's it. You take mātauranga, you take that number 8 piece of wire, you bring them together, and Kiwis can fly. So one of the things I want to share with you now, take a more important step. We've come out of a thing called COVID. And there are some lessons there that I think are really important. You know, here's the thing. I've given up talking to old people. I've spent 70 years talking to old people and they get nothing done. So now I'm only going to talk to young people. That's why we've put this program into primary and intermediate schools, because we know that if we share these stories, we will change the country in one generation. You are on that journey. You are the voices we need to listen to. This is an 8-year-old Māori girl who will share a story about the impact of COVID and the lessons from Papatuanuku. She is 8. English is her second language. She was brought up in a kura, a whare kura, and, well, this is her.
At 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday the 25th of March 2020, Aotearoa stopped. A nation was still. But if you listened, you could hear Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, breathing. The wind over Almonga, our mountains. The waves on our moana, our oceans. And the songs of the children of Tani. Our lives, normally so loud and busy, became soft and distant. We learned what was truly important. Our whānau, our friends. And Papatuanuku spoke to us. Look what happens when you take cars off the road. Look what happens when you close factories producing pointless plastic. Papatuanuku will clean the air. Papatuanuku will clean the water. Papatuanuku's message is simple. We are all connected. The people, the plants, the animals. Aotearoa is our waka, and we need to find ways to look after it. He waka eke noa. Papatuanuku is guiding us. Are we ready to listen?
So this weekend, you will talk to us, and it's our time to listen. This is your future, and that's the world, and that is the voice from an 8-year-old Māori girl. We need to listen, and Papatuanuku is sending us the messages. And I see some amazing things out there in the exhibition hall out there, all aimed at this future that is sustainable and cares for Papatuanuku. Now, just to close, at the beginning, there was reference made to this incredible voyaging of our Pacifica people. It began 3,500 years ago as the Egyptians were building the pyramids. Now, in 2019, we had the privilege of joining this waka haurua. That's one of the state-of-the-art craft that our Polynesian ancestors came in. We joined this waka haurua as it made its journey from Tahiti to New Zealand, skippered by this 25-year-old Tahitian wahine. That's a journey of 4,000 kilometres. It's the journey Kupe made. And we actually put some gear on it to see how well she did. So that white line is where you'd go if you're using satellites. And there she goes. So she's travelling 4,000 kilometres using nothing but the stars, the sun, and the ocean currents, just as Maui and Kupe did. And I love to see the zigzag at the top. She had to slow down before she went into Tauranga because she had to wait for the Endeavour to catch up. And it only came from Sydney. So there it is. Now, here's the cool bit. Here's the think tank on the back of the waka. Notice anything about that? There's the wahine, all wahine. 25-year-old Tahitian girl. On the corner there, that's Moeta. And Moeta is the celestial navigator who used science, mātauranga, to travel across 4,000 kilometres of the Southern Ocean. So can I just ask this question? How many people in this room even knew that happened? See? Hardly any. Now, if we are to have a conversation, if we are to talk about our future, how come in the year that was meant to commemorate the arrival of Captain Cook and acknowledge the incredible voyage of our Polynesian ancestors, no one, I give this speech everywhere and hardly anyone ever heard that story. That was the main story in that 250th anniversary of Captain Cook. It was our story. It was the story of Kupe. So today, this weekend, as you share this vision of the future, make sure you do not lose sight of that past which has been denied us for 250 years. Ka pai.